Hey, Church Alive family, if you're watching this, it means you're in your PJs, sipping a cup of coffee, joining us here at Online Church. Before Pastor Glenn continues our series, Ghosts of Christmas, we just want to remind you of a few things coming up. Next weekend, we have our special Christmas production called Ebenezer's. Both campuses are coming together, and we just want to encourage you to get here early because the place is going to be packed at all three services. We want to remind you of Christmas Eve communion coming up. The times will be 3 p.m., 4 p.m., and 5 p.m. Get all of your family. We'll see you there. We cannot wait. Lastly, even though we are not physically together, we are together at Online Church. We just want to remind you of the ways that you can give. You can give online on our website. You can go to our app, or you can text to give. We are so thankful that you joined us today at Online Church, and we cannot wait to see you next weekend at any of our services for our special Christmas production, Ebenezer's. See you soon.
Hey, Church Alive, so glad that you have joined us this morning online. Chances are, if you are watching us online right now in North Carolina, you are snowed in or iced in. Enjoy the winter wonderland. A couple quick things I want to share with you before we talk about our Ghost of Christmas briefly this morning. First thing is this: next weekend at our main campus, we will host the presentation Ebenezer. You do not want to miss this. It is a powerful presentation, and it goes right in and along our series, The Ghost of Christmas. Both of our campuses will meet right here at the main campus, 8:30, 10, and 11:30. You want to make sure you get here early. The place will be packed. There's a lot of excitement. You don't want to miss that. Also want to draw your attention to our Christmas Eve communions, a very special time here for us at Church Alive. We will host 3 Christmas Eve communions right here in our main gathering place, one at 3, one at 4, and one at 5. We want to encourage you to come on out, bring your family. If you've got family in town with you, it's a great time to come together and just pause. It's kind of a pause moment there before the activities of Christmas Eve and Christmas Day we spend with our families. And then the last thing I want to encourage you about is our prayer times on Wednesdays in January, our Call to the Wall. We'll host those right here in the gathering place, 7 to 8:15. You do not want to miss these. I need you to join me on Wednesdays as we set the tone for the new year. A lot of exciting things on the horizon for Church Alive, not the least of which we are working diligently to relocate out of this campus into our new site. We'll have a lot more to share about that, but we want to set the tone right in prayer in 2019 as we grab a hold of what God is doing and participate in how He's moving in and around this region. I wonder how many of you, like me, like presents. I love a good present. In fact, I love Christmas morning. I like gathering around with our family. I like watching our kids open their gifts. I still enjoy that. I hope that kid in me never goes away and it never dies. Speaking of presents, there was a couple that had twins, and these twins were identical. They looked alike, they dressed alike, they had mostly the same likes and dislikes, but they were different in one aspect. One of them was a high optimist, and the other was a low pessimist. And so on one particular Christmas, the family was wondering what they were going to do with their kids, and so they asked some friends. That friend happened to be a doctor, and he told them what to do, and they went home, and they thought about it, and here's what they decided to do on Christmas morning. On that morning, the kids came down, and for their son that was the pessimist, they had the most beautiful, bright bicycle sitting in the living room, the best bicycle you've ever seen. Their son walked over to the bicycle and with his mouth open and his eyes really wide, and at first he didn't say anything, and then all of a sudden he just crumpled down on the floor and he began to cry, and his parents said, "What is wrong with you? Why are you so upset?" And he said, "I love this bicycle, but I just know I'm going to get on this bicycle, I'm going to crash it, and I'm going to break my leg, and it's all going to go bad." Their other son went around the tree, and he was looking, he found his gift. It was in a box. He opened up that gift, and inside of that gift was a pile of poop. He looked at it, then he looked at his parents, he looked at the poop again. He set the box down and he ran outside. Not long after that, his parents followed him outside, and when they got outside, they're like, "Son, what are you doing?" He said, "Oh, well, I realized if you gave me this box of poop, there has to be a horse at Christmas that you're giving me. Otherwise, you would have never given me this box of poop." Kind of a humorous story there in relationship to presents. But today I want to talk about a different present. I want to talk about your present life. You're either hopeful and looking into today and have a great deal of hope for tomorrow, or you may be fearful and anxious. Maybe some things in your past has brought you to that place in your present. But I want to speak to that today, the ghost of Christmas, and especially the present, where we live right now. In 1865, Pastor Philip Brooks from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, took a pilgrimage to Israel. When he got to Israel, he spent some time there, and on Christmas Eve, he was privileged to go to the Church of the Nativity for a 5-hour service. Now, I know what you're thinking. Pastor Glenn, don't you get any ideas about a 5-hour service? The next time somebody says to you, Church Alive services are long, remind them of the story here. During that 5 hours, there were windows inside this church, and he would look out and he would see the beauty of Israel. And the Lord dropped this poem in his heart, and I want to read it to you. Perhaps you've heard it before. It goes like this: "O little town of Bethlehem, how still we see thee lie. Above thy deep and dreamless sleep, the silent stars go by. Yet in thy dark streets shineth the everlasting light. The hopes and fears of all the years are met in thee tonight." Bethlehem, a quaint, small town, small region, a region not unlike some that you may have grown up in and recognize. But Bethlehem is the place, it's the collision, the place of collision between hope and fear. Israel was under Roman rule and dictatorship. On the national level, there was a great degree of defeatism among the Jewish people. There was also an issue of monetary and financial crisis, so much so that a tax was being levied on the people for the military occupation and to pay for the military occupation. Mary and Joseph were on their way to Bethlehem to pay their tax. Get the picture. This would not be a joyous trip. It would be common for us today like a trip to the dentist. I'm sure many of you don't like to go to the dentist, or maybe to the DMV, or even a trip to the IRS. You get the picture. It would not be the most popular of trips. And in this trip, Joseph and Mary are on their way, and Mary is 9 months pregnant, and she's riding a donkey to Bethlehem. And when they get to Bethlehem, it's going to be a very awkward situation because both their relatives are from there. Mary's pregnant, she's not married, and this is going to open the door for some intense conversations there in and around their family. This is a tough time. It's a tough time both nationally and a tough time personally. There is not a lot of hope in the life of Mary and Joseph. I wonder today, like Mary and Joseph, if there are some of you in the house today without a lot of hope in your life. Maybe your present life is not what you dreamed it would be. Maybe it's a struggle. Maybe you're struggling in various issues and with various issues in your life. I want to tell you today that fear cripples and paralyzes. Fear is concerned with all the wrong things. Fear is connected with all the wrong things. But I want to tell you today that hope is connected with everything that is right. You know that fear is so common to us in our humanity. It's the first emotion that we experience as a baby. When a baby's born, all of a sudden, they are introduced to the emotion of fear. It goes like this. Where are those safe walls that were around me? I don't feel those anymore. Where is my safe place? Who is grabbing me? Or who is touching me? Who just hit me? All of these create that sense of fear from the time we are born. In fact, fear is the most primal of all human emotions. But I want to tell you today, on that day in Bethlehem, Jesus Christ, a baby born of the Virgin Mary, was no ordinary baby. He was fully human in that I believed He had every emotion that you and I have in relationship to fear. He cried, He wailed, He experienced fear as a baby. But Jesus Christ was also fully divine. And He is that point of collision. Jesus is the collision point between fear and hope. And heaven, I want to tell you today, all of heaven offers us the most incredible of hope that we could have to live and do life. Isaiah chapter 42, verse 1 through 4 says this, "Here is my servant whom I uphold, my chosen one in whom I delight." The prophet Isaiah says, God will put my spirit on him, and He will bring justice to the nations. He will not shout or cry out or raise His voice in the streets. I want you to know today that's an illusion or a picture ahead of Jesus and His earthly ministry. Jesus doesn't clamor or make noises like a clanging cymbal or a gong. When He goes into a region and miracles occur, He's not doing that to bring attention to Himself. He's not doing that to draw everyone to see how great He is. He's doing that to accomplish the will of the Father. And the will of the Father is this, that humanity would experience justice again. And you know what justice is? Justice is you and I being rescued, redeemed, and restored by the commitment, the life, and the death of Jesus Christ. On that part there by the prophet Isaiah, a bruised reed He will not break, and a smoldering wick He will not snuff out. I want to tell you that brings with it the imagery of someone hanging by a thread. And if that thread breaks, there is no hope. But I want to tell you today, Jesus has come not to cut that thread, but to rescue you and I, to bring us out of a life of hanging by a thread and into a hopeful life filled with the kingdom life, filled with all that heaven has for us to do life. Can I tell you today that we have been given the greatest gift of all? Right now, no matter what your present life is like, you have the greatest gift given to you of all, if you believe this. John 3:16, "For God so loved the world that He gave His one and only Son, that whoever believes in Him will not perish, but have everlasting life." I got to tell you today, this is our hope. This is the hope you have. This is the hope that I have. Without this, I have no hope, and I will be overwhelmed with fear. But with this truth in my life, I am confident and I am convinced that no matter what the circumstance, no matter what the situation, no matter what the issue is, I can overcome and I can get through this. 3 quick things just to remind you today before we close regarding walking in hope. The first one is this: when you have hope in your life, you realize that this too will pass. In other words, no matter what you're walking through, no matter what the dilemma, no matter what the issue, no matter how great it is not eternal. It doesn't last forever, and you're going to get through that. That's what hope does in our lives. The second thing is this: it's okay to not be okay. We live in a religious world and a Christian culture that has kind of put down the idea that we can never say that something's not going good, or we can never admit that we might not be measuring up. I want you to know today that hope gives you the ability to say, you know what? Things might not be going okay right now, but it's going to be better. And I believe that today is going to be better than tomorrow. Hope gives you the ability to say, it's okay that I'm not doing okay, but tomorrow is going to be a better day. And the third thing is this: when you walk with hope, you realize that whatever your present obstacle is, it isn't in the way, it is the way. You see, Jesus never said that He would remove us from facing obstacles, but what He did say is He would walk right with us as we go through that. And we got to remember and hang on to this hope that on the other side of whatever that obstacle is, there is a victory, there is a miracle, there is something so powerful to move us along on our journey. I want to encourage you today, Church Alive. Even though we aren't able to meet together physically as we normally would on a weekend gathering, I want to encourage you today. Baby Jesus, powerful, glorious, humble, born in the most humble of situations. In that moment, at His birth, is the place where fear and hope collide. And the only way that we have hope, and the only way that we are freed from the fear that we have in our life, is to embrace the fullness and the truth of who He is today. I want to encourage you as you spend the rest of the day with your families. Think and ponder on these things. Use them as a source of conversation, even around your dinner table or your lunch table. Can't wait to see you next week, Church Alive. God bless you. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you soon.